Hello.
Hi, Andre.
Hey, Tara, how are you?
Good. Did you like that special intro?
Yeah, that was awesome, baby. It's retro porn, I think it's called, right?
Well, it's perfect for today's topic. So, welcome to everyone to Mondays with Tara and Andre.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Let us know in the comments if you can see us, if you can hear us, if you liked that little intro.
Mm-hmm. What's not to like?
If you're watching us live, please type #live. If you're watching us in a replay, #replay. Oh, I'm making all kinds of noise because I have something in my lap to show later.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to get into today's topic.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because it's inspired by like a month of a lot of fun things going on with us, eh?
I think it's a couple of factors at play. You know, I think, well, you're talking about the flurry of parties that we've been going to and been invited to, right? I think it's something to do with the spring, but especially this spring really coming out of COVID. I think things are opening up and people are happy to be around and be socializing.
Yeah, so it's a perfect time for this topic. And also, I didn't tell you this, Andre, but when I was putting the finishing touches on the content we put together, I was so excited about it and realizing that there's no such thing that I've seen out there. I'm going to package all of this up into a guide with this video so people could buy it and have it if they want to be a great host or a great guest. And I'm going to like add all kinds of extra things in it too. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Hey, as you're saying that, I have no idea what you were envisioning, but I wonder if it all should be laminated for easily cleaning and passing around and stuff like that.
Yes, or available online, so you don't have to get dirty. You don't have to get it dirty. I think that.
But the laminated ones are fun too, because then as the guests arrive, you can pass it out to them, and they can have like a quick view of the rules and stuff. And
that's actually a great idea. So let's think about that, because maybe what it is there's a page that people can take out and laminate it that would have the rules. I can format for it. Oh, I love how this is evolving. Maybe this needs to be a whole book.
Oh, interesting. Oh, with little fold outs. And
yeah. Okay. Super excited. So would love to know from people in the comments, and thanks to those who are saying hello and that you can hear us. Good morning. Good morning. We'd love to know from you if you've ever attended a sex or kinky party, or if you've ever hosted one. So let us know in the comments, and then feel free to jump in and add thoughts as we go along, because that would be awesome. So we've hosted a couple of parties in our day.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back now. Memory recall, not always the best. Did the first parties that we had, were they online or were they in person?
Yes, we actually we attended parties, but during the pandemic, that's how our original group, our TNA group, started, was that we wanted to host online parties. So we actually followed a lot of these things in the party online ones as well. So it actually does apply. There's a few extra things. So let's make a mental note to add that to it. But yeah, we started that. And then when there was that tiny break, we had our first in-person party to celebrate, I think, my 48th birthday, maybe, or 49.
Yeah, well, I remember that one specifically. I really tried to go into my planning phase, which isn't necessarily part of my repertoire, but I thought it was important too, so it'd be important to me. So one of the many things that we ended up doing because of the the consideration of COVID and all that, it was not only were we asking people to be recently STI and STD tested, but we also wanted them to be COVID tested, and to, it's up to them, but we'd ask them to consider really reducing their interaction with other people until they would, so we could all come to it in a very safe way. Now, since COVID is officially over, we don't have, those concerns don't seem to be quite as announced, right? If you're feeling as though you have something, obviously don't. But the STD, STI testing still remains prevalent, and we do ask that people take that into consideration. It's one of our ways of being a good host, good guest. Well, I combine the host with the guest.
Right. So we are going to talk about that later on, about that. But I think what was interesting there is, that was a great point. And I think it's changed since COVID as well in terms of sex parties and stuff. I think people are less likely to go if they're feeling even a little bit off, because I feel like people are more sensitive to it, and also more considerate, because we know how easily COVID spreads. And so people, even if they don't have COVID, if they have a cold or a sniffle, people will back out right away. And I think that's great. That's great. So
I think so too. Yeah. In fact, it was making me think back to, unfortunately, a party that you did not attend in Montreal, but was put on by one of our friends. It was actually their first party, and they really went to great lengths to make sure that the issue of consent and parameters and understanding all those things, and STI testing, all of that was really mentioned in a very open and normative kind of way. And it was wonderful. So voluntarily, and I'm not suggesting that we have to do this, but many people were submitting their test results saying oh, look, I was recently tested back in, a month ago, and whatever. And it doesn't really matter how it comes out. It's just the idea of really bringing up the awareness of it.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. Okay, we're going to talk a bit more, because there was some good things that they did at that party as well, and some others that we've attended, and then some things that we wish that others had done. So today's topic is sex parties, how to be a great host and a great guest. And so we didn't introduce ourselves, if in case anyone's new and watching us from one of our channels. I'm Tara Franco, and I'm a relationship and awesomeness coach.
And I'm Andre Targott. I am a sex-positive psychotherapist. Yeah, I think I'm kind of jumping all around today because the topic is so exciting to me. It's like being a social butterfly at its premium, right? You get to go to parties and interact with a whole bunch of people. But it was fun too, because going back to the idea of, it being during the COVID consideration, we were hosting online parties, which were a blast too. We had people from around the world attending these parties, and then we did even a couple of speed dating. That was kind of fun. But we're talking primarily now about being back in person, and how to throw a good party, how to be a good host, and how to be a good guest, and the do's and don'ts of that.
Yeah, our top do's and don'ts. So I grouped it together, all the information that we talked about, Andre, in kind of the before, during, and after sort of thing. So for the host and the guest. So the first part is preparations before the party. So we're talking about preparations well in advance of the party. So let's talk about the host. I
want to just say two things before, if I may, to interrupt. Sure. One, as always, we welcome any comments that you have. If you want to, tell us that we are way off base, we're welcoming to that. If you have other things to add, we'd be welcome to that as well. In fact, hang on.
What are you doing?
Sorry. There's a little cat who is just stuck in a bag and would try to do anything to get on screen. Anyway.
Oh, hello, Tangi, the famous Tangi, whose medical bills are quite expensive. And so if anyone wants to help with that, let us know.
I didn't mean to plug that. But the other thing is, what we're going to talk about now is by no means exhaustive, right? I mean, there's always more to be considered, more to talk about. So
and you can take these with a grain of salt. These are kind of our best ofs and what is our preference. So the host. So preparations before the party. And we're talking I think it's good for the host to plan as far in advance as possible, especially if you're going to do the first thing on the list, which is decide on a theme, because it gives people an idea of what to wear, and, and it kind of makes it a little more exciting. I mean, I like the idea of getting dressed up or having a theme. Then you don't have to go what am I going to wear? Sexy lingerie or a towel, or, you know what I mean? We went to a couple parties recently, one being this past weekend, where the theme was everything share and share adjacent. And that was super fun to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. So it wasn't, you didn't just have to come as Cher. You could have been one of her many, 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 many lovers, which is wonderful, right? Or, anything and anything, whatever floats your boat. But I think if I'm picking up on what you're trying to put down here is the idea that if you're inviting your guests, or if you've been invited to a party like that and there is a theme, what is the level of participation? So I know from some people, they really like to, be extravagant and really invest in their costume things. And because they do that, they also have this, I think, desire that the other guests might be doing this at a similar level. And what happens is sometimes some people are not so enthusiastic about it, which is fine too. But I think that maybe we want to know what is the level of intent in that. So in other words, forget about the fact that it's a swinging party. If you were invited to a black tie event, then there's an expectation that you're going to dress in, maybe not in white tie and tails, but something to that effect, right? So it's being mindful of where it's being held, in the sense that the idea, what is that theme, and what's the level of participation that people are going to want to participate in, right? What level of dress, for example?
Great. So we have a lot of things, Andre. So I just want to kind of go through them. But yeah, so decide on a theme. I think it gives people something to get excited about and plan for, but let people know as soon as possible. I think what's been helpful as well in the ones that we've gone to right from the very beginning is to start a group chat with the attendees. So that way everybody sort of gets to meet each other originally. You can give all the event details, so the location, time, any house rules, and we'll go over some of those later. I have a list of those. Some of those, like some people don't like red wine, no fucking in the hot tub. You can have rules around drugs and that sort of thing, hard and soft drugs and that sort of thing. And then I think it's important to be clear on the type of the party that it is. So,
as far as type of party, as far as
if it's an actual like swinging lifestyle party and there will be sexual activities, I think it's important to be clear about that. Mm-hmm. You may recall that one of our first parties we tried to put together, it was a little ambiguous. And so I think we had said it's like a vanilla chocolate party, and then nothing ended up happening. So I think we sort of learned from that. And I think it's good to be clear that what type of party it is, because then that will also dictate who you invite, and who your guests bring with them, right? If they might not bring somebody who's never been to a party before, or someone they don't know, for example.
So if I'm understanding, just for clarity, you're suggesting that there might be like varying degrees of these open lifestyle swing poly parties, right? Some where it's just friends who are familiar to the lifestyle and we get together, and there's not really this end goal kind of thing. And then there's other parties where it's very much with the consideration of DTF, right? We're coming here and it's going to be a sex party oriented around play. These people are all desiring of that and all on board with it, as opposed to it simply developing more organically, where maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So what it does really is it frames our expectations, right? So we can either subscribe to that and say, yes, that's something I'm down for, or I'm not quite sure, and that's perfectly fine. Another way of doing it also is some people do attend the other ones that are more play oriented, and then they say, well, I might decide at some point that it's not for me, and either I will simply watch if you're okay with that, or I will check you at the next one.
Yeah, and that's totally cool too. And you can withdraw your consent. We'll talk about that a bit later too, but you can withdraw your consent at any time. Yeah. Just because you're going to a sex party doesn't mean you're ever obligated to have sex with anybody. So we'll get to that in a moment, but let's keep focused on the before the event stuff. Otherwise we'll never get through this, Andre. We've already been going 15 minutes. Okay. So, well, there's a lot of great content we talked about, Andre, and I expanded on it. So I want to get through it. So, because it's really great. So, if you do have a group chat, encourage your guests to share an image of themselves and anything they'd like you to know about them. So that's important. And we're not talking about a whole essay, but anything that they might be interested in sharing about themselves.
So, and to that, I'll keep it brief, but into that, as far as sharing images, right? So a lot of people are very comfortable and announce themselves to be queer or be poly, whatever it is, and that's fine. That's your prerogative, and other people are less comfortable with it. So please always respect people's privacy. So when you ask them to share a picture, what's the intention? Where is it being shared and with whom? And we might invite people to share pictures of each other, but it is really only in that chat. And please, be mindful of that. So unless you have, very direct consent that they are comfortable sharing it outside of that, please be mindful of that, because this is all about trust. Go on.
Yeah, and I would suggest for that initial chat, photos, that we're not sharing dirty pictures. It's not it's a thing to share, like, this is what we look like, this is what we're into, kind of thing, and I'm going to get into pictures a bit later, because we do talk about that during the party and photos. So as the host, it's important to get some supplies for the party. So I'll give the list. I don't know if you have the notes open, Andre, so I'm just gonna I
do, but I wanted to say a little bit more about the pictures. There's a comment about do we need naked or dick pics?
No.
And I think you already described that. But very often people do like to know if you might have a full-length picture. It needn't be nude, but and if there's any special considerations, just like that.
I would suggest, as the guest, not to share intimate pictures in that group chat. If it's like we're setting up a party and this is a group chat, I'd say keep it vanilla in there. And as the host, you can say that. That might be something you want to say to people, like, this is just to share a full length or full, picture of yourselves.
Oh, face picture. Yeah.
Or face picture, whatever. So, okay. So getting the supplies. So lots of supplies as the host. And so condoms, we suggest getting latex and non-latex and having a good supply of them. Lube is good to have, and have enough to be in, if you have multiple spaces where there'll be play, have enough available around. That's not to say, and we'll get to the guest part, that you as a guest shouldn't be responsible for bringing your own stuff, but as a host, it's great to have that stuff available. So then bathroom supplies. So this is important because this is different in different parties, and I've seen it where it's very clear and everything's out. And we certainly do this when we have parties, is have things like baby wipes for people to quickly clean up, mouthwash, and little baby, like little cups, like paper cups, and something to wash toys with, that sort of thing. Bowls, having bowls, non-breakable ones probably, for condoms and supplies in the various spaces. Food, think about what food you might have for your guests, especially if people are playing, they might get tired and get hungry in between things. So it's nice to have sex party suitable foods. You look like you were going to say something, Andre. So.
Well, a couple of things. So yeah, going back to the bathroom, if I may. So as far as offering to have condoms and baby wipes, that's wonderful. Yes, bring your own, but also make it easy for where people might have a place to dispose of these items, right? So in the bathroom is probably a trash can, but maybe in your other play areas as well. Make it so that people can, participate in being, good guests and dispose of their non-mentionables as well. Right?
Yeah. So we didn't get into food. So the food that we love, and we usually bring this to parties that we go to. We didn't actually do this last time, which is this weekend, which is surprising. We usually bring our little rainbow cold fruit sticks, because cold fruit is always really nice, especially in the gap between play time. Avoiding things like onion, garlic, things that are rather heavy. It's great to have like pitchers of water with reusable glasses. And if you want, a selection of non-alcoholic and alcoholic beverages, if you want, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and lots of ice. Back to the bathroom one more time. So it's wonderful if you are able to accommodate, if you have such resource, but you might offer people the ability to rinse off, shower off, take showers, and yes, ideally you'd have towels for them, or invite people to bring their own towels if you're having a rather large gathering and you don't have that many towels, right? So that's a good point. Thank you, Drang, for bringing that up.
I was trying to show that, but it didn't work. Oh, there we go.
So another thing is, as far as the food, now moving into the kitchen, many people might want to announce that they're not wanting any kind of, or ask if there's any nut or shellfish allergies, right? So, are there any special considerations that we need to know? And let's, let's say that as our guest, but let's also invite that as our host.
Yeah, that's great. It would be good to have like wipes and or like spray bottles with paper towels to clean surfaces that might be easily wipeable, and protecting beds with waterproof mattress covers. IKEA has a really inexpensive one, and there's more expensive ones as well, but it's good to have those sorts of things. And you might even consider having extra sheets, like fitted sheets for play areas, if you think there might be multiple times for play. People aren't always worried about it, but if someone's going to be squirting or something like that, then there could be some cleanup required. And speaking of squirting, if you are a squirter, you might want to bring your own like special towels for that, because you shouldn't expect that, you can just squirt all over the place and the cleanup crew is going to come and like clean it up for you.
Right. So it's really a consideration of the golden rule, right? Doing unto others as you'd want to have done to yourself. So as good guests, we are cognizant of what it would be like for our hosts and for the other guests. So we are wanting to be mindful of that. So we make sure we get invited back.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
You can also have a host kit if you like. So this is also optional, but it's kind of fun when hosts have these things. So little extras like toys that are shareable, edible massage oils, extra towels,
handcuffs, ropes, whips,
ropes.
whipped cream.
Friends that we
Costumes.
hung out with this weekend, they have like a little bin of like extra lingerie and a tickle trunk that they wash. And it was very clear about that. We wash things very carefully, that guests can enjoy. So that's kind of fun.
On the note of washing, it's a given, but I'm going to say it again. So at these parties, it's wonderful to go, if it's, consensual, obviously, it's a given, but it's fun to go from one person to the next in whatever way. We need to wash our hands in between, right? I know it might feel like a bit of a buzzkill, but you can definitely make contact with the person and say, hey, would you want to? And they're like, yeah, I'd like to. And I'm just going to wash my hands. I'll be right back. And it's always welcome, but it is essential, right? So rinse our mouth, wipe our areas, wash our hands, and go at it. Right. I feel like I'm always the one who's like, the old guy in the group is like, make sure you do this. Look both ways before you cross the street. But
we're trying to be helpful. But thank you. You got a little advanced of us, but that's okay. It is important. I mean, we were at the local sex club here in Toronto, Oasis Aqua Lounge, and there was a dominatrix there, and she was demonstrating fisting, but she was talking about cleanliness as well. And she was talking about how like no one's ever going to say no if you say like, just give me a second, I'm going to go wash my hands. And and that includes like under your nails and that sort of thing. And we will get to that part, things like nails and hygiene in a moment. Okay. So guests. So do update your STI testing at least 2 weeks before the party so that you get the results in time. If you haven't been recently tested. What are you going to say?
Well, I think you might have skipped ahead a little bit too out of that section. So one of the other thing is back to the setting it up, right? And one of the parts is once we get the invite, let's RSVP and let's.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I forgot that part. So yes, for the host, to remembering to ask people to RSVP and confirm and verify any guests that they're bringing. Yeah. So that's important, especially if there's limits to how many people can attend. Because if someone can't attend, then you might want to add other people. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? How many guests can we bring? So we brought a couple of guests, and there were other guests that I wanted to bring, but I felt as though I had exceeded my limit. So be mindful of that as well, right? So, and check in with your host. They might actually welcome even more, or they might say, well, we're kind of at the limit for this one, but we'll consider it next time.
Yeah, and the host as well might have some considerations, or you might have considerations as the host as to whether or not you want to have equal numbers of people of a particular identifying gender, for example.
Ratios.
Like some people are 2-person couples only, other people are a bit more open. So that's something to consider as a host. What if you want to have any things around that? And as a guest, making sure if you are inviting someone or inviting people that you confirm with your host that the guests that those guests are fine to add.
Right. So yeah, I think it also in throwing your parties, I think it might depend also on the size. So if you are, well, no, I shouldn't say that. Actually, it doesn't really. But often we see a lot of parties where it is couples invited, right? And it's generally male-female couples, and they come to it. But then it's a question of, if there are triads or there are solo poly people, how do we feel about that? And it even goes down to consideration, are we wanting one form or another, right? So find out, and let's just start talking about it and see what our guest list is looking like.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so back to the guests. This is before the party. This is like well in advance. So we talked about STI testing. Do you have conversations with your partner or anyone who's attending with you? So we always suggest that you have some sort of before, during, and aftercare plan and talk about any agreements you wish to have. And, those are things that we talk about in our group program. We help people put those together. You might also wish to share any personal boundaries with your partner or the person that's attending with you. So if you have any certain things that are boundaries for yourself. Do look for your outfit or costume to suit the theme and have fun with it. And we already talked about, if you wanted to invite a guest, make sure they're vetted and verified, as they'll be a reflection of you as well. So that's super important.
Yeah, and to that point also, we all start from someplace, right? You can't get the job unless you have experience. You can't get experience unless you have the job. So there will always be somebody's first party, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But we want to know what their feelings are about certain things that are going to happen, might not happen, and how will they imagine themselves to be. So again, it always comes down to communication. If you have not been to one of these parties before, that's fine, but let's talk about it first and manage our expectations on both sides. That being said, also, Tara, in the notes, I see you've got something down about our personal boundaries. And that makes me think also, as hosts, let's have an area designated as a neutral zone where everybody understands that there's a place for timeout. And in this area, we will not be hitting on each other. We will not be fornicating. We will not be doing anything. This is a neutral area, our kind of Switzerland, where people can just time out for a minute.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Right? So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I'm writing it in so I don't forget. Okay. So now we get to the day before the party and the day of, because there's some similar things and I didn't feel like dividing them in two. So the host. So use that group chat. Do remind people of the time and the location and the theme. And if there are any special rules like we talked about. And I think I do talk about a bit of rules a little bit later on at the actual party, but also if there's like a time window for people to arrive. I know one of our first very large parties here in Toronto, they had a window you had to arrive by unless you prearranged, because they basically locked the door. It was in a big mansion. There was tons of people and you couldn't get in after that, because the host also wanted to have a good time. So don't expect that your hosts are going to open the door for you if the whole group is engaging in play.
Yeah. And Tara, that makes me think of another reason behind that also is because by the time the party is in full swing and we're going at it, like you say, we don't have to be listening for the doorbell, but also the introduction of somebody coming into the group, they may be able to just insert themselves seamlessly, shall we say, or it might be kind of awkward. So all of a sudden, depending on your space, you are fully in it, and here come these people from the outside. They're fully dressed, they're with their packages, the whole deal, and it can kind of influence the mood, shall we say. So that's why sometimes people say, well, by this time, that is the time.
Great. Yeah, for sure. I think
that's that also reminds me of another point. If you are at one of these parties and there is play going on, or if you're at a sex club or wherever it is, be mindful of the people around you. In other words, if you've done what you want or you leading up to it, kind of get an idea of what the temperature is in the room. So if people are being rather intimate, and I'm talking about last night's game, it might not be everybody's ideal fantasy. So maybe go to an area that is less occupied in that way to have those kind of conversations and keep the tone of our voice, respectful of others. Yeah.
That's great. So let's go back to day before and the day of the party. We're going to get into more about the actual party in a moment. So do you ask, as the host, people to confirm that they're attending, and if they have any guests, have some places for people to hang their coats or put their bags. That's like, make sure you have enough hangers, or a room or a space that's designated. It seems crazy, but it's also, you don't want coats all over the place or boots or like whatever, right?
No, but it's funny because, in a northern climate like we live in, very often people will have coats and boots. And at a lot of so-called straight parties, well, they'll take the coats and they'll throw them on the bed. Oh, we need the bed. We're going to need that bed. So, maybe not put them on the bed.
Well, one of the parties we went to in Montreal recently, it was actually their first time hosting. They're amazing hosts. And what they did was they had a whole coat rack in their front hallway, and they had lots of like mats because it was a snowy day. Yeah. And so they planned for that, and it was great. And then that's where I kept my bag. And then it was away from everything else. So people took their boots off, they put on their inside fun shoes, and then that's it. And then the house didn't get dirty. There was a place for your things, and it was good. So it is important to have a place. So get ice, I think, and any other food supplies you need. Clean it if it's your home, and get your supplies put out in all the areas where there might be play. And like you said, have garbage cans and that sort of thing, just to make it easy for people to clean up, right? Mm-hmm. And so as the guest, the day of, or, just before the party, you have to pack your own kit. So even though an awesome host would have all these things, it's important to have your own kit. And that's what my little demonstration is. So I brought our little pencil case here. It's very full because I added something new. So I wanted to share, just because, the first thing that's not in there, but it's important, is to bring your own emergency snacks. So if you know Andre, he loves a power bar and gets hungry frequently. So we always make sure we bring these. And we have also been known to bring apples and grapefruit. And
pineapple. Yeah, I like it because, you're burning a lot of calories, right? You're expending a lot of energy. So you need to be able to refurnish that.
So I have a favorite lube. It's this KY Naturals. So I'm very sensitive in my parts. And so I bring my own lube just in case. Having said that, people we played with at one of the parties in Montreal more recently had a hemp one. And so I want to find out about that, because I think that would be great.
Well, and our other friends were mentioning that they have a massage oil that is edible.
Yes.
As well, and also able to be used as a lube. So that's wonderful. So put that in the comments, please.
We have our own mouthwash that we bring. This is a little container that I got when I was in the hospital, and we keep refilling it with the good stuff. And so we always have that in our little pencil case, so we can rinse our mouth at any point. I have wipes, a little traveler pack of wipes. If you buy a bigger pack, you can just put them in a resealable bag. I'm giving you the non-things that people wouldn't expect in a thing. So this is contact solution, because I usually wear contacts to parties because I don't want to be taking off and on my glasses. However, at the end of the night, I'm done with my contacts. So I bring my glasses and a case, and I bring contact solutions in case I want to take my contacts out. And then all the condoms. So, we have a variety of condoms in this bag. We bring our own. This brand Skin is great because it's non-latex. So for people who have sensitivity. So I think it's a good standby if you're a host to buy these. They come in big packs. You can buy huge packs of them. But there's all kinds of other ones you can use. What else do I have in here, Andre? I have some rubber gloves, in case you're doing activities where you want to be using more of your hand to penetrate. You can also cut these open and use them as dental dams, that sort of thing. So safety. And I always bring an elastic for my hair in case when it was longer, lipstick, and eye drops.
Fantastic.
Did I miss anything?
No, but I guess that's not the toy bag, but
that's not the toy bag. That's a whole other bag. So that's the other stuff that you can bring. So if you have any toys that you are willing to share, or you don't have to share them, but I think it's nice if you bring them if you're willing and open to sharing them. The other thing I like to bring is, this past weekend, the share party, you had 3 costume changes. I had 2. And so it's kind of fun to have extra costume changes. But also, if you have a more elaborate costume, at the end of the night, you want to go home in your comfies, I always bring an extra pair of underwear and something like leggings or something that's easy to pack that doesn't take up room, so I can wear those instead at the end of the night if I want to.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great point, right? Because if you are going to one of these elaborate costume parties, you may want to arrive in that stellar outfit, whatever it is. But, at whatever time you leave, you might not want to have that same thing in that ride home, or you do, but maybe it's something to consider, right? Bring a bag to change into those comfies at home for sure.
Yeah. And I would suggest too, if you're going to a house party, to bring inside shoes. So don't wear the shoes that you're going to wear unless it's dry, because you don't want to make someone's house dirty.
It reminds me of a story that my friend Denis told me, that he threw this crazy party at his parents' place. They were away, so he naturally went to their place because it was nicer than his place. And somebody came in wearing stilettos, and he was only aware of it towards the end of the night. And when he looked at the floor, it was beyond repair. Somehow the wood was soft.
So that's important to note too, that if you have, that you might need to be considerate of your shoe wear as well.
Right. And that's also to the host too. If there are things, like you don't want somebody sitting in your grandmother's chair, then, either mark it well that it's not to be used, or do away with it, put it away someplace.
Yeah. Yeah. So as a guest, confirm you'll be attending, and do not invite, obviously, any guests without checking with the host. Very important. Avoid onions and garlic the day before and the day of.
Unless everybody's in agreement with that, maybe that's maybe you belong to an onion or garlic group and you all want to do that, right? But otherwise, it can be somewhat overpowering. Tara and I, we always check in, and I always ask people I'm with, if I ever have bad breath, please tell me, rather than just trying to endure it and say, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this guy. So, it happens, but it's the idea of onions, garlic, things of that nature, right?
So the other thing to do is grooming. So we talked about, so if you are one to remove hair from your body, it's good to do it if you're trimming or shaving. Shaving the day of, as close to the party as possible, so it's smooth, because it can, faces, pussies, other parts, can be quite sharp if you've done it before. I always like some waxing for the private areas. I think it's smoother, but I also like doing it the day before, so that you don't get all those bumps and that sort of thing. And then I think as a guest, to consider BYOB, bring whatever you want. So now we're getting to the party day and during the party. So wow, this is going long, but this is such great stuff. Okay, so as the host, you can welcome people as they arrive, obviously. Remind people about the rules. So I listed some good ones here. André, tell me if I'm missing any.
Before that, but I'm going to say, one way of doing it, you can tell each person as they come in, but the last party in Montreal that we attended, the host announced all the rules when everybody had arrived and we were all in the kitchen together. We said, well, and rules is a big thing. It sounds punitive almost, but the preferences, shall we say, right? But they were spoken of in a very matter-of-fact kind of way again, and it really helps to make sure everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what is offered and what is expected.
Right, but some of them have to be rules, I think.
So some of them have to be rules. It's true.
Yeah. So some good ones to write, and we'll include this in our guide, is about acceptance and sex positivity and no shaming. So no yucking someone's yum. So it might not be for you. You might be you watch an activity or see an activity that's not your jam, which is fine. You don't have to be open to everything, but not judging. Not being open-minded that these things might occur, and not to yuck them. It sounds like kids in the background there.
Yeah, there's a school.
Oh, okay. So this one I really like, and this is where I think it has to be a rule, and they have this in sex clubs as well, is ask once policy.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to explain that, André? Or?
Sure. So I ask you to do something, Tara, and you say, no, I'm not into it, or not right now, or whatever it is. You decline my invitation. I don't wait an hour later and ask again and keep asking. If I've asked you once, that's enough. Yeah. If you decide later on that you want to engage in it, then you will approach me and say, hey, that offer before, if it still stands, I'm into it. But we don't continuously hound somebody. I want to really make sure that the other person feels comfortable. So it's got to be consensual, obviously, but understand when people say that they're not wanting to, please accept that. You don't have to personalize it. Just accept it and then go to the next thing.
So consent, that's a good one, is talking about what consent is and what consent isn't, and about ongoing consent. Because I think sometimes people think that, oh, if I touched Andre's cock like before, that I can touch it again. And I think you have to be clear that consent is ongoing, and also it's specific to the person. So just because Andre is doing something to me, that doesn't mean that Bob can also do that same thing to me. It doesn't give you express consent to engage in that scene or that activity if you haven't asked the people involved. And that includes all the people.
Right. So, and there's varying indications of consent, right? So if there's some play going on, one of the ways to kind of coming into the room is you might want to get eye contact, but that's not really the best form. Or you might even get a thumbs up, but again, that's not the best. The best, absolute best way of getting consent is asking and being told verbally, yes, you may, or no, thank you.
Yeah. And may I do this, or may I touch this place, or may I do this, and being very specific, and the person saying yes. And the person, if you're the person receiving, you can say at one point, like our friends do, is like, you have my consent. I mean, I still like to do all the things, you know what I mean? But I think it's still nice because, just because someone consents to a full menu of activities doesn't mean that you're done with oral sex right now and we can just go straight to penetration. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's asking is so important.
Sure. Or because you and I had some earlier activity means that like, okay, it's still open for the rest of the night. Yeah. It was granted at that time. Right? So yeah, it's important. But why is it so important that we talk about these boundaries and consent and everything? Well, because it builds trust. And when we feel that we can trust the situation, we're able to relax, and then we can go at it in a much more satisfying way, as opposed to feeling, well, I'm not quite sure that what might happen next, and it puts us on guard, and we're not as relaxed, we're not going to enjoy it as much. So it's important that we do have these forms of communication.
Yeah, and these are very intimate, vulnerable times, and you maybe have met people for the first time, and so it's really important to do this. And I think that, I mean, like people go like, oh, that must be weird, like asking for everything, like, may I touch this, may I do this, may I do that? But it's fine. I think it's like, so I've gotten so used to it, asking and receiving that information. It doesn't bother me if someone says, may I do this, then may I do this, and may I do that. And then I have the choice to say, like, I'm happy to fully, whatever, like, and I can explicitly say that. But if they're asking me, it takes the pressure off me to say what I don't want.
Right. Well, at this last party, I was bent over one of the chairs and I invited the group to, I was wanting some ass play. I said, if you want to slap my ass, by all means, it's an open invitation for everybody at this moment. So.
Yeah. Some other rules you may want to have as the host. This is like a practical one, like red wine. Like maybe you don't want people to bring red wine or drink red wine at your party because it's going to make a mess.
Well, potentially. I mean, yeah, we were at one of our first parties and they had a white couch with a white rug and somebody spilled a ton of red wine on it, right? So, luckily they had some salt to throw on it, but still. And after that, they made that as part of their rule that no, you cannot bring red wine. So if it's a consideration for you, then let it be known, but also be considerate of what it might be like to come into somebody's house and you might not think anything of it, but it might be something for them.
You might want to make some parameters around hard and soft drugs and smoking. So what is okay with you in your home, if it's your home, and where this is permitted. Even vaping. I notice people vape inside and it's not, for me, if people are out at my condo doing it out the window, that's fine. But I don't want people freely vaping in my space because I'm sensitive to it, right? And, you may have preferences around whether or not hard drugs are okay in your place or where this happens. Like we're not doing lines of coke on our, kitchen counter,
Or we are.
You know what I mean?
Depends, yeah.
You can decide, that sort of thing. And then the other one.
But also in that, I'm sorry, if it is decided and maybe not everybody's wanting to vape, smoke, do lines, drink, whatever, maybe again, we might have an area where there is designated areas. So that might be happening. So when you go in there, be aware that maybe this is going on.
Right? Yeah. I think the other thing that's great to do and to talk about at the beginning of the party, and set time for is about photo taking. Because I think, you know, especially people are dressed up, people are going to want to take photos and that sort of thing. And that's great. And maybe that's an activity that you do at the beginning of the party. And then at some point you're like, okay, phones away or not permitted in the play areas. No photos of people. I think that's pretty fair to say.
Unless you're all in agreement with it. So you get
Unless
some people who are like, yes, we're very much wanting to take pictures. We want all kinds of things that we want to have these as mementos. So it really depends. But again, it has to be consensual.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be in a party where others were taking photos and I was sort of in the side, because I feel like you could end up being in a photo and not know it. And you may not, people are at different levels of.
Yeah, for sure. I want people to take pictures of me. And if somebody says, oh, I have a naked picture of this guy, by all means, thank you. If you think I'm interesting enough to want to show to other people, then by all means, show it. I have a human form. It doesn't bother me. But yes, absolutely. There are a lot of people who are not wanting their picture to be anywhere and are not wanting to do it. So again, be mindful and make sure it's consensual. So don't take any pictures unless you have explicit consent to do so.
And if you really don't want your picture to be anywhere, like even in the group chat, I think it should be clear that anything that's shared amongst the group is kept amongst the group, that you're not posting it on your walls or, you know, on your personal pages. But if you really don't want your photo to be associated with this activity, that's your choice, and just don't be in the picture. You know, I used to get mad, like, this is not a sex party thing, but my one cousin, she would get in family photos and then she'd say, oh, I don't want it on Facebook. So it's like, I couldn't post any family photos, which the rest of the family wanted, because she didn't want it on Facebook. And it's like, well, then don't get in the photo. Don't be part of the photo, you know, or don't be part of all of them, you know, anyway. So the host can also set the mood. So music, lighting, temperature, these are all super important things. It's important to have a meet and greet part of the evening, which is why the timing and having a set time for people to arrive is important, because it's nice to arrive in a neutral space, get to know each other. You can do some games, you know, icebreaker sort of things for people to get to know each other. So it sort of sets the tone for the party. One of the first parties we went to, what I loved about theirs was they did the meet and greet in a whole separate room in the building, like the party room. And so that's where the food and the drinks and everyone got to know each other. And then at one point it's like, okay, this is done, because they had a very small condo. And then we would all go up to the condo, and that was like, okay, as soon as you walk in the door, people are going to be naked. Like, it was a nice sort of break, you know, in the thing.
So do you prefer that there be an announced time, or do you prefer that it kind of develop organically and all of a sudden you look and, whoa, people are starting to do this, that, and the other thing?
It's a tricky one. Like, I'm sort of on the fence with this one. Sometimes I'm kind of like, someone's got to start it, but if nobody starts it and you don't have an official kind of thing, then it can become awkward for the host or the guest to do it. So yeah, I like the idea of having something that kicks it off. So maybe the party game gets sexier. I don't know. Yeah,
I'm wondering how they start the like the Indy 500 with the flag, or if we had like a traffic light, they'd be like red, yellow, green. Okay, go. A bell that goes off.
So the other thing as a host you can do during the party is do things like clean as you go, if you can. Make it, like you said, make it easy for people to throw things out. What I really loved about one of the parties we went to most recently in Montreal was that it was their first time hosting, but it was funny because when we left kind of the play area, I cleaned up my own things, but I noticed that there was sort of things around. And then next time we went upstairs, it was all tidied up. Like, the condoms were back in the space. My lube, which I think I had left somewhere, was put like where the rest of the like everything was reorganized. And I was like, what magic elf did this? But you can also ask for someone to volunteer to be that person. But like, because people, so we'll get to the being a good guest thing, but
we volunteer something. So we would have like a towel attendant or something. Right? Someone's not in the play, who's just going around doing it. I wonder if there's any cuckolds that want to volunteer for that. Any slaves out there that could be availing themselves. I'll have to ask the master.
Okay, I'm noticing the time, so let's like whip through the rest.
I'm noticing the time too. I wonder, Tara, if we should come back to this next week then.
Okay, like
What do you think? I mean, how much more is on our list? Because we're already at 50 minutes. I got to
I
prepare
don't
for
think
the
we have
next.
enough for a whole one, so let's just try to go through it, I think.
All right, let's do
Is
it.
that okay? Okay.
No interruptions here.
No interruptions. Okay. So we talked about, grooming.
Oh, yeah. One thing that comes to the list right there that I see is the responsibility of the host. If there's any behavior that is non-consensual, that makes your guests feel uncomfortable, it is your responsibility as host to intercede. And we happen to have a zero tolerance policy, right? So we're going to go over the rules. We let you know what consent means. If at any point that is not respected or violated, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to leave.
Yeah. So you can do this. So part of the, you may have, there's often more than one round of play sort of thing, or there's sort of shifting things. So you can check supplies, refill food, but also check in with guests subtly. And if you notice something, you can check in with people and find out. And like you said, deal with those situations. So, maybe we do have a lot more left than I thought. That's okay. Let's just do it.
I don't know. I'm kind of feeling we should put a plug in it now, because there's a lot more that we can talk about.
I think we talked a lot about these things already.
Okay.
So let's just go through them. Why don't I just read through them? So as a guest, you want to stop.
No, go for it.
So as a guest, be mindful of the time you're arriving, BYOB. Consider a host gift or something for the bar or something to share. We talked a bit about personal hygiene. So shower, cutting your nails, waxing, shaving, whatever you need to do. No garlic and onions, adhering to the rules. So paying attention and adhering to them, practicing safe sex, and being aware of your guests' activities. So if you bring someone and they are not behaving, make sure that you also address that. And I think it's important to manage your expectations. So whether it's your first time or your millionth time. So I think it's important to go with no expectation other than to be open to new experiences and possibly meeting new people, because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know if you'll vibe with the certain people are there. And you have to you can't assume that people will want to have, because it's a sex party, that people will want to have sex with you or you with them. I think that's important.
Yeah, for sure. Never do what you're not wanting to do, for sure.
Yeah. And so you talked about cleaning up cleaning up from yourself, which is important, wiping down surfaces, being mindful of your hygiene during the event. So like you said, rinsing your mouth, using wipes, washing hands frequently, and then the do not talk loud in the play areas. So you may be done with your scene, but it might be distracting to others. I know I'm certainly intolerant of loud voices talking. And I think sexual noises, it's also important. Like while people sometimes love that, it's also be aware that it could be disruptive. So, and we talked about asking for consent, ongoing consent. Oh, here's another one which we haven't mentioned is if you want to stay connected with somebody you met at the party, make sure you get their information before you leave the event.
Right. But better, I would suggest to that, is offer your information.
Yes.
In case they're maybe not wanting to as much. So, hey, here's my contact info. If you want to, stay connected, that'd be great. And they're like, okay, thanks. And then they can decide, as opposed to, well, why don't you give me your digits? And it's kind of like, I wasn't really feeling like I liked it then, but my whole life considerations, I'm polysexual, whatever it is, they might not want to. So offer yours.
Yes. You don't want to make it the host's responsibility to connect you, because then they have to ask the person if it's okay and
Go back and forth. Yeah.
It becomes a thing and it's not their responsibility. And make sure during the event that you check in with your partner and implement your part of your before, during, and aftercare plan. So then now we go to the day after and beyond. So the host, send a message in the group chat, thank everyone for attending, ask people to let you know if any inappropriate behavior that happened, and ask for feedback. Like, what did people like? What didn't they like? All that stuff. As the guest, you can thank the host, share any group pics that you took in the chat, because not everyone will. Yeah, in the chat, as you won't have, some people may not have taken photos. Follow up with STI testing, at least, and if you want it to reflect what's happened at that party, it's got to be at least 2 weeks, right, Andre? Sometimes longer too. That's why ongoing testing. And then loop back and let the host know, and any partners that you had, of any STI results that you get even a month or two later, so that guests can be informed.
Yeah, and again, there's no shame involved in this, right? So it's the same thing. If we went to a party and we caught a cold or had the flu, we wouldn't assign a level of morality to it, saying, "Oh my God, there's a bad person, or a dirty person that got a flu." Well, it's the same thing with these STDs. So we resist wanting to feel guilty about it or embarrassed about it. We simply acknowledge it. We take the correct precautions. We do the right thing, and we notify the other people. We take whatever protocol of medications, and then once we are deemed healthy again, what's the term? Anyway, once it's resolved,
or transmissible, or whatever.
Yeah, once it's resolved, then we're back into it. But please be responsible, be mindful.
Yeah. So, and then just one final note. Yeah. So whether it's even if you've been to parties before, you may be prepared that you may have some feelings. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Things come up at parties, things we don't expect, things that trigger us. Because it's really exciting, the idea of a sex party, especially if it's new to you. But, like one of my partners once said to me, is like, you can't unsee your wife having sex with somebody else. So, even if you talked about it, you have a plan in place, you may still experience some feelings associated with that. And that's okay. Just be open to and curious about what might be causing them, and as well about talking with them with your partner or with a professional, and so you can think about what things would make you feel more secure in the future. So.
Excellent.
So like I said, we're super excited. We might want to re-record this video, but we're going to put together an ultimate sex party guide, which is for the host and for the guest. And so if you are interested in getting this, drop party guide. What did I say? Party guide or guide, whatever, in the comments to get on the wait list to get one. Mm-hmm. This will be a small paid item, but something that you can have and use and keep.
And we'll see if we can do it in time to get coupons from our affiliates on there.
Oh yes, well we just did get a new affiliate thing with Lilo sex toys, so I'm pretty excited about that because they have some good ones that I love. So cool. I think that comes with a discount. So, so in today's training, we explained how to be a great host of a sex party, but also to be a great guest. And so it's important to say, like, I think we need to say this, André, because we don't say it often enough, that we do all kinds of free trainings in these groups and in our social networks. But when we do this, we've only really touched on the surface of what's really needed in order to fully enjoy all the pleasurable experiences that you can have, or when you imagined you would be consensually non-monogamous and feeling secure in doing that. So this is stuff that we do inside our group program, Open Relationship and Polyamory Mastery. We go do a deeper dive and make sure you do have set the foundation to feel secure for these types of relationships. So, and we also do this in the coaching and therapy we provide. So for those of you who are watching and you were afraid to maybe ask a question, maybe you're ready to, jump on a call with one of us and just talk about what's going on with you.
Tara, speaking of call, it's coming right down to where I gotta sign off to sign on to my next call.
Okay, that's great. So thanks everyone for watching. I will drop the link to book a call, and it's right here. You can book a relationship rescue call with me, and I'll make sure I drop that link in the comments. And yeah, the first step is as simple as just talking about it. So we're here to provide that for you if you like. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.